Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Christina Reneo, and I am a career development specialist. And here with me today, I have one of my graduate assistants. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda. Like Dr. Neo said, I'm a graduate assistant here at the Career Development, and I'm also a clinical psychology PhD student at FDU.
We were asked to present to you today in regards to preparing for the upcoming pharmacy and PA career fair. This is what we are going to be covering throughout the presentation. We're recording this so that way you guys can go back to it and refer to it anytime you need to. But this is what we're going to be covering today. Hold on, having some technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. So we're going to be talking about the logistics of the fair. We're going to talk about how you can prepare before the career fair, how you should and when you should follow up after the career fair. We'll cover networking and interviewing because you'll definitely be networking during the fair, and there may be opportunities for you to interview right on the spot. And then we're going to be talking about your resume as well. This is the title of the fair, and here are the logistics. So this is going to be taking place on Friday, November 1st from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at 230 Park Avenue. And sign up for this fair is going to be on Campus Labs. So those are the logistics. And then I'm going to pass it over to Amanda, and she's going to talk about before and after the fair.
Yeah, so let's start talking about ways you can prepare before the fair and what you should be doing after the fair. So before the fair, of course, you want to make sure that you are registering for it on Campus Lab. So make sure you do that. You also want to go ahead and research some of the organizations that are going to be attending. Right, get a feel for the companies, see, maybe make a list of the top companies you definitely want to make sure you go say hi to, and make sure you know a little bit about them, right? So when you go talk to them, show them that you're really interested in them, and you're also going to be asking really good questions if you do your research ahead of time. Also, research any positions or job descriptions that are posted on the company website. You never know what opportunities may be coming your way at this fair. And it's something that you might want to throw out there, or it's something that, they might be interviewing you for on the spot, so to speak. So make sure you do your research before the fair. Also, so you also want to make sure that you're printing copies of your resume. So see how many companies are, registered for the fair, but maybe around 20, 25 copies of your resume. You want to make sure you're able to hand them out when you go up to the table. Make sure you have questions ready to ask the employers. We will have some example questions on the next slide, so I'll wait for that in a minute. Make sure you have a professional looking portfolio or folder for all your resume and notes, a nice black folder, maybe an FDU folder. I'm sure you have one of those, and a nice maybe notebook. You don't want to be taking notes right on your phone. It could look like you're texting and just not paying attention. So go the old-fashioned way with, a pen and paper. Make sure you are dressing to impress, right? So professional business attire. We talked about that during our last presentation, whatever you feel most comfortable and confident in, but also make sure that you look put together and that it is presentable. And then also, if you want to, make some business cards. I'm not sure if you guys already have those, but don't be afraid to hand those out or ask for business cards when you're going up to the different employers and get their contact information.
Definitely. Just a quick point to add to that. If you're not comfortable bringing copies of your resume or not able to, we've seen other people at career fairs, they make their own business cards and they have a QR code to their resume. So that way they're always giving out the most updated version of their resume. So if you don't want to physically bring copies of that, just make sure you have a place where they can either scan the code or, like I said, give a business card where they can get your contact information.
Some questions you want to ask the employers. So you want to make sure you are prepared and ready when you go up to the different tables. You want to keep the conversation going. So these are some of just the questions that are good conversation starters. What do you enjoy most about working for insert company's name? What are the skills you value most in your employees, right? And then you can talk about how you have those skills. What types of professional development opportunities do you offer for your employees, right? You want to show them that you're interested in that professional personal development and that continuing education. And then how do you anticipate company name evolving over the next 5 years? These are, again, just some ideas that we came up with. Feel free to add your own, even jot some of these questions down in your notebook that you're bringing so you could quickly refer back to it before you go up to an employer and start talking with them. And then for after the fair, on the next slide.
Okay.
So after the fair, make sure you review all your notes. So take some good notes down. Submit any applications if needed, depending on who you talk to and some of those job descriptions that may be open that you researched. Go ahead, find them on LinkedIn. Hopefully, maybe you took their business card or anything like that. Feel free to send them a connection and make sure, write a message when you're connecting with them on LinkedIn, say that it was great to meet them, you enjoyed their conversation, and you look forward to the future. Something like that instead of just a regular connection. It helps you stand out. And then make sure you send a thank you email. So let's talk about the thank you email on the next slide. So if you get their email, and especially if this is a company that you are really, really interested in, we suggest following up via email. So you want to thank them for their time and consideration for being at this fair. Briefly highlight your draw to the organization, right? Why are you a good fit? Was there something in your conversation together that stood out to you? Express your interest in one day working for that organization. Offer to answer any more questions, or maybe to meet up again. And send within 24 hours of the fair. Although I think your fair is on a Friday, so maybe you just want to send it first thing on Monday just to avoid sending emails over the weekend. Avoid adding too many details, making any type of requests really. Make sure you do not spell anybody's name wrong or the company's name wrong, and of course, typos. This should be something that is very brief. You don't have to do it for every single organization or company that you talk to. I would just pick, your top ones and write something a little bit personal to them just to, help you stick out among everybody.
Okay, so we're going to bring it back to me, and I'm going to be talking about your resume. So if you are bringing copies of your resume to hand out to potential employers, you want to make sure that your resume is perfect. So let's start with, what is an actual resume, right? So it is all these things. It's a living document, meaning that you go back to it at least once a month and make sure that it is updated with everything that you've done. Your resume is a summary of everything that you've done educationally and professionally. It's a way to highlight your successes and achievements, and essentially it's your brand. We're trying to market yourself to an employer, right? We want them to invest in you. So we want to make sure that your resume is a reflection of that. Okay. All right. So when we're talking about a perfect resume, what do we mean by that? A perfect resume. Well, you should have perfection in every one of these areas. Grammar and spelling, the verb tense that you use. If you're talking about a past job, you're using past tense. If you're talking about a present opportunity, you're going to use the present. We want to be consistent in the format, right? We want to make sure that we have the same color, the same size, the same type of font that's throughout the document. When you think of branding and marketing, you think of brands that are consistent, right? That are standing out. Repetency, right? Like repeats. So if you think of Nike, right, you know what their slogan is, you know what their logo is, right? So we want to try to create that within a resume, your brand. The content and the detail. Make sure what you put on a resume matters. I like to say that resume is real estate. Space matters. So what you put on there, it has to matter. Length is going to kind of change depending upon the industry that you're in. Some people who are old school, it's a generational thing that they say, oh, your resume should only be like one page. And it's really not true, right? Depending upon your industry, depending upon what you're doing, it's okay if your resume goes onto a second page. Usually for pharmacy, because you do have a lot of experiences, we say try to have no more than 2 pages. Because again, you want to make sure that you're including everything that is relevant and that is important on that resume. And then again, the overall look and feel, we want to make sure that it's appealing. You want to make sure that the person who's on the other side of this reading the resume, or if it's going through an applicant tracking system, that it looks and feels good. So perfection is needed in every one of these areas for your resume. So on the next slide, we have an example of what not to do, right? So if we take a look at this resume, the font is all over the place. We have some areas that are bolded, some that are not. We're not really using the space efficiently and wisely. And this really is something that shows that you didn't take the time to look over it, that you don't care about your work, what you're putting out there. Again, this is a representation of you. So you want to make sure that what you are putting out there looks good. So that is one example of what not to do. And then here we go. We have an example of what a resume should look like. So this is the example that we use in career development for pharmacy students, right? So we're making sure that we have your contact information in the heading, we have the education front and center, your IPPE experiences. Some of you probably have APPE as well. Any pharmacy experience, all your certifications, licenses, and training, any types of organizations or memberships that you're a part of, any research experience that you have, presentations that you've completed or made, any type of leadership and community service that you're involved in, work experience. So if you are working like a part-time job outside of pharmacy, any types of honors and awards that go along with your education, you can put here. Any conferences, professional conferences that you've attended, you could add. And then additionally, your skills, right? Think of those transferable skills. What types of skills do employers really want to see? Yes, it's very specific to pharmacy, but also too, you are going to need transferable skills, right? Yes, you're going to know how to, do chemistry, but also you're going to need to know how to communicate. You're going to need to know how to work in a team, how to collaborate, right? Making sure that you're organized, that you're efficient, that you're completing tasks in a timely manner. So you really want to focus on your transferable skills, because depending upon what you want to do, if you're going into business or you're really going into pharmacy, you want to make sure you're highlighting your skills. So this is a great example of the type of resume that is successful in getting students recognition. So to summarize in terms of the resume, perfection is key. Stay away from resume templates and generators, because the problem with that is if you use a template, sometimes when you go and upload your resume or your cover letter to a job, the template will kind of jumble things around. And then whoever, again, is reading it on the other side, whether it's a person in human resources or it's going through an applicant tracking system, that could really ruin your chances of your resume being presented in a neat and organized format. So that's why we always say start with a blank template, a blank Word document, and then go from there. Okay, so now that you are going to be at a career fair, you're going to be interacting with different employers, you really need to practice your elevator pitch, right? So some of you probably have experience from this as an undergraduate student in your UNIF courses, the elevator pitch, right? It's an extremely valuable piece of communication to master in 60 seconds or less. Essentially, you're going to be talking about yourself to an employer, and you need to go from 0 to 60 really quickly. So what do you actually include in your pitch? Do you just go up to somebody randomly, start talking to them about anything and everything? No, well, obviously we have some guidelines here for you. And Amanda is going to cover those.
Alrighty, so preparing your pitch. So this is a time when, you go up to the employer and they say, tell me about yourself. So this is what you're going to tell them. So you're going to tell them the most important, interesting, valuable aspects about yourself that you know that the employers are going to value, right? And you can do that by doing some of your research about the employer and the company. And they're pretty much going to be the same for all of them. You want to grab their interest, right? Enough to keep the conversation going. So after you giving them this pitch, hopefully they say something that sparks a lot of conversation, right? And then you want to connect and tailor what you are talking about to the person that you are speaking with, if possible. Again, doing research about the company is going to help you do that. So I think if we go to the next slide, we have more of a breakdown. Okay, so a way that you can kind of, the format of your pitch or a way you can think about organizing it is by sharing the news. So obviously start off with your name, right? Hello, introduce yourself, give some information about your education, talk about what year you are. Obviously you're at Fairleigh Dickinson University. You could tell that to them as well. What do you do for work? Work, you can also talk about work in terms of school, like if you do any like leadership on campus, if you're the president of any organizations, volunteer work, that counts as well. So make sure you talk to them about that. Talk to them how you balance your education and your work. Talk about your skills. So creativity, organization, if you're really maybe into research or something like that, go ahead and talk about that. And then any kind of optional stuff. Maybe this is where you want to mention, I saw this on your company page and I was hoping you can offer me some more information. End with a question. So then they're forced kind of to say something back to you and hopefully that gets the conversation going. But sharing the news, following this format is just a really good way to think about the flow. And once you kind of master that, it's easy to tailor it to different companies and organizations.
Yeah, definitely. It's also in the optional section. It's a great way to tie in whatever that company's mission is into your conversation as well. And again, sometimes when you go up to different employers, they may just be wanting to connect and network and talk to you about different experiences. But sometimes too, at a career fair, they may be interviewing right on the spot. So how do you actually prepare for that? How do you prepare to interview right on the spot with an employer? So the best way to do that is to really be prepared. Make sure, again, it goes back to doing the research, the preliminary research on the companies that are going to be there. Look and see, are there any jobs that they're really hiring for? Are they posted on their company website that they're going to be hiring for? So make sure you look at the job description. And make sure you just know yourself well enough, what you are able to bring to a team and how you can effectively communicate that and your experience and how it relates to whatever the company is looking for. Always think about what makes you stand out, right? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you that particular position within the company. A great example or a great way to answer questions when you are interviewing, I should say, is showing them that you are a star, right? We say utilize the star approach. It's just a way that you can really be specific and use specific examples to kind of get your point across, right? So if you're asked any type of behavioral situational questions, show them that you're a star, right? Set the scene, tell them a situation that you were in. What was the task or the purpose that you had to do? What action did you take? And was there a result? What was the result? It's just, again, a way to show a specific example of the things that you are able to do or have done in your past that you might be able to do at this company. And a great way, to get used to interviewing is by practicing. So FDU Career Development, we have some great resources to help you practice and get more comfortable in speaking with people. Big Interview is a great resource and tool, and I believe we talked about that in our last presentation as well. If you go to fdu.biginterview.com, this platform allows you to practice answering and responding to general interview questions that are asked in interviews, as well as more industry specific type of questions. But what it allows you to do is record yourself. So you can actually record yourself responding to these questions, go back and look at the video and reflect. Ooh, did I answer this to the best of my ability? How can I do this a little bit differently? How can I add a little bit more to my answer? How can I be a little bit more specific? So it's really a reflective piece, but the more you do something, the better you are at it. So we want to make sure that you are comfortable in approaching and networking and talking and speaking with people and really understanding yourself and being able to communicate that in an effective way. So we're kind of at the end of our presentation here. So as a summary, you just want to make sure for the career fair, you're doing your research again on the companies that are attending. Make sure you're dressing to impress, professional business attire, something that you are confident in, but that is also appropriate for, you know, the workspace. In terms of copies of your resume, just make sure if you are bringing copies, we would suggest a number around 2025. If you wanted to make business cards and have a QR code to your resume, that works as well. Again, practice your elevator pitch. I'm sure you have friends within the program that you can actually practice this with, or maybe your colleagues. Some of you are working at, you know, on site and doing your clinical rotations. Practice it. Get feedback from people who you trust. And then additionally, make sure you follow up with the applications. Once you actually do attend the career fair, you get business cards, you find opportunities, follow up, either apply with and submit your resume and cover letter and fill out an application, and make sure you send thank you emails. And yeah, and that's basically what we have here for you. So thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and you know, we wish you best of luck. And at any time, if you wanted to practice or make a one-to-one appointment with career development, my information is here. My email address is creneo@fdu.edu, or if you wanted to email the Career Development Center, we can be reached at career@fdu.edu. Thank you so much, and best of luck.
Good luck, everybody.
Stop share.